Commission on Inclusion and Innovation. It's Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. It's 5:35. We'll start with a roll call.
Oh, Commissioner Megan O'Brien McNamara.
Commissioner Spiro Proko.
Commissioner Tom Kosker.
Commissioner Beck Markowitz.
Commissioner Prem Nagabandi.
Commissioner William Kittle.
All right, thanks so much. Appointments and resignations is next on the agenda. I don't think we have anything there at the moment. Correct, Dana?
Correct.
Nothing. All right. Approval of minutes. So we've been very busy, as many of you know. So we have a number of minutes. You should have these minutes in front of you, as well as they've been emailed to you by Autumn recently. So we have a meeting from March 27th, our full meeting on March 27th. And if you have any edits to any of these minutes or any errors, please let us know so we can make corrections on those. We have meeting April 3rd, our special meeting that we had called around the Pride crosswalk display. And then we have 4 meetings of our Community Conversations Committee is minutes from April 17th, from May 2nd, from May 6th, and May 15th. So that is a total of 6 sets of minutes. So that's a bunch of stuff. I will entertain a motion to approve these set of minutes.
There's just one edit on the May 6th.
Here,
that
make
was
a
included.
motion, and so make a motion, and then we'll second, and then we can make edits. So, someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion to make edits? Is that
Make a
what-
motion to approve the minutes.
Oh, I make a motion to approve minutes.
Right, do we have a
Got it.
second?
Aye.
Second. Okay, so now we open for discussion. So,
Okay.
yes, an edit. Which one do you want to edit?
The May 6th.
The
And
May
we
6th.
did make a note of that in the May 15th
Yep,
minutes,
yep.
that we have an adjustment to the May 6th to amend, removing the individual's name in the public comment section.
Okay,
So it said, it notes the 3 documents provided, and it wasn't a document from that individual, it was notes
Okay.
that we had from the committee meetings.
okay, notes provided to all attendants. So you want to eliminate 3 documents provided? And make
No,
that?
that's fine, we can eliminate just the individual's name.
Oh, I got you. Eliminate the
and
individual's name.
her role, yeah.
Oh, yes, okay.
And that's just a notes document in place of that.
There were union statement discussion documents today, union statement such a date today.
And in anticipation of same, the document was corrected and forwarded to Autumn. So she does have the
The corrected version of that. Awesome.
corrected version.
All right, cool. You've got the note on that, what she just said, right? Okay. Excellent. Anything else? Especially check your attendance on these to make sure that we have the right people who are in the meeting. So hopefully you looked at that, make sure your names are correct. Anything else? Okay, so, see, now I did mess it up, right? I have a motion to approve the minutes now, so amended. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended minutes.
Motion to approve the amended minutes.
Okay, and second.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on that? And all in favor? Aye.
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 All right, approved. And I probably messed that up somewhere with my Robert's Rules of Order, but I got close. So, that's that item. Item 5 on the agenda is report from the commission chair. So I have a few things to report today. I'll start off with kind of a message to the commission and also to the community, you know, for those 2 people that are listening or listen later. There have been a number of, I'll call them divisive messages of hate in Rocky Hill recently in past few months. And some people may be aware of those, some people may not be aware of those. I'm not here to discuss the details of those. But I do want to say that the commission is aware of these things. We are made aware of them by folks in the public. We are, you know, I'll say working with a number of people on these issues. And I think a number of our town officials are working on these things. And I just want to let folks know that. You know, the mayor and the mayor's office, our town councilors, our town elected officials, our town appointed officials, the Rocky Hill Police Department, are all kind of working together and on different aspects of addressing these issues. So I think we have a good approach across the town on dealing with these things. In addition to that, I'll say there's folks at the state level that are working on these things. I've been in touch and in contact with state officials on these things, as well as we all know, there's many folks on the grassroots level in community organizations that are working on these things, and continuing to spread our message of inclusion and unity. So I just wanted to address that we are aware of these things. Again, as they come up, we are made aware of them additionally. So if you do hear about those, please, and they will be directed to the right folks that it's most appropriate to work on, whether it's town officials, police department, state level, et cetera. They are issues that are happening across the state, which is why the state's involved, and there's many communities across the state that are dealing with these things. So anyway, just wanted to make that statement. The second thing I have on the agenda is sort of related to that, is we've been working really hard, the commission, on drafting and crafting an equity statement, which Megan will get into a little more detail later. So I just wanted to, right now, thank the commissioners that have been working on this very hard over the last few months and over the last couple of years, to be honest. It's been a slow process for a long time. We sped that process up in the last few months, but there have been other commissioners that have contributed to this in ways since the beginning of this commission. And I also want to thank, town community members who've been out and come to our meetings, et cetera, and really participated in helping us craft this. So I appreciate that to all parties involved. So thank you for that. The last point I want to make is just to kind of highlight our Juneteenth celebration that the commission is not hosting, but we are just going to promote, I'll say. So the town of Rocky Hill is hosting our first annual, I'll say our first. I won't speak if it's going to be annual because that's not my position to say that, but it's the first Juneteenth celebration on June 19th, Wednesday. I believe it's at noon right here in the community center. If I remember correctly, it's noon to 2:30. There's been a committee of people working on that. Look forward to seeing you all and seeing the community there if you're able and lucky enough to get that day off. Or if not, then sneak away for a couple hours at lunch and come down and see the celebration. So invite you all to come to that. And we will try to get into a spot where we can promote different events that are happening in town. So we're working towards that, to be aware of some different events happening in town. So that's all I have from the Commissioner's Chair. Any questions or any comments?
No, it's good. Love to hear.
All right, seeing none. Subcommittee reports. We have, first up is our Community Conversations Subcommittee. I'm going to pass it over to Megan, if that's okay.
Sure. So our Community Conversations Committee has been working very hard, as Commissioner Kosker indicated, on the unity statement, which also includes commission commitments and some recommendations for the town council. Because as we know, a proactive statement is one thing, but taking action and activating against that statement is something completely different. So we've, in addition to the statement, added those commitments and recommendations for the council. Shall I walk through the details?
Yeah, if you
now?
wouldn't mind, that's great, because again, I know our committee meetings are public meetings, but oftentimes we get less attendance, and certainly they're not recorded and stuff. So if you could highlight and even walk through, some of the work that's been done by the committee and coming up with this, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thank
So
you.
in summary, we're seeking to establish a proactive statement of unity and equity for the town of Rocky Hill. And as I mentioned, more than just a statement, we also will demonstrate our commitment as a commission, and we'll make recommendations to the town council to take action to follow through on the statement. So this work has been informed, as we noted, from previous commissioners, including some advisement from the Sustainable Rocky Hill Advisory Committee, independent research from commissioners on the committee, in preparation for the May 6th and then the May 22nd full commission meetings. We've also shared the research, the notes, and the outcomes of the individual committee meetings, so the commissioners have been involved in the progress over time. We used the community members' responses to our survey. These are feeling-based questions and our commission priorities to help inform some of the language and the priorities that we included in the statement. We used community members' comments from the petition for the Pride Crosswalk for the town of Rocky Hill and public comment received in response to the proposed Pride Crosswalk. So prioritizing language and intent from those commentary. with that commentary. We had 5 Commission on Inclusion and Innovation Committee discussions, and those discussions did include members of the community. On May 6th, we had a commission meeting for public comment, received public comment, and adjusted from there. In addition, again, each of the commissioners has received several updates along the way, so we've been on the journey together. To define some key terms, in our community, diversity includes, but is not limited to, race, ethnicity, culture, ability, economic standing, religion, gender, and LGBTQ+. We also use the language similar to what Commissioner Kosker said earlier, divisive behavior. So that, for us, includes, but is not limited to, discrimination, prejudice, racism, bigotry, misogyny, ableism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, anti-Muslimism, etc. So obviously that's a pretty extensive list, and we didn't want to have a laundry list of all of the things in our unity statement. So to keep it clean, we define those up front.
Thank you. And just a quick comment. So I appreciate this. I think this is great to see all the work that's gone into it, and this everyone's aware. Everything up to this point is kind of background. So I just wanted to kind of draw a line real quick here, a soft line. Like up to this point, it's been background work, background discussion. So now as you move into this next piece and this next slide, it's a little bit more the deliverable.
Right.
Right? Okay,
Yes,
cool.
thank you, and thank
Cool.
you for clarifying. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks.
it. So our proposed unity statement is a statement of Rocky Hill for all. The town of Rocky Hill fosters a community culture that values unity and fairness over divisiveness and injustice, cultivates, supports, and celebrates diversity, prioritizes equity and acceptance, and proactively seeks opportunities to be inclusive and welcoming. We commit to progress over time as we acknowledge our past, address our present, and position Rocky Hill to create a future with an equitable quality of life for all. So as I mentioned, we're also proposing actions or commitments from the commission. So this is for our Commission on Inclusion and Innovation. We will be innovative, pioneering, and just. We will act and respond with respect and openness to others. We will create connection and break down barriers to cultivate unity, fairness, and equity in our community so that there is no place for divisiveness, discrimination, and prejudice. We recognize there is always more to learn, and this work is never done. Our commitments include enable, empower, and include all, listen and bring visibility and voice to experiences and perspectives that respect all members of our community, empower and support others to do so as well. Create opportunities for dialogue, connection, and understanding in our community. Be willing to have difficult and uncomfortable conversations. Promote activities and events that enable our community and municipality to recognize and address bias, highlight opportunities for equity and inclusion, and celebrate diversity. Lastly, support the execution of ideas that help our town to be inclusive, showcase diversity, enable unity, and create a sense of belonging.
Awesome, thank you. And just to kind of clarify for everyone, I think, so that commission's commitments is one thing that we're going to kind of vote on tonight, I believe,
That's
as
correct.
well as the actual
Unity statement.
the unity statement that you discussed. So those two slides, so to speak, are pieces that we will possibly be voting on tonight and have a discussion about. Some of the other stuff in this piece here is not necessarily, the next piece is more information,
That's
but not
right.
a voting thing. Okay.
So, correct. So to inform what the commission commitments actually look like. So how are we delivering on that this year and the things that we've talked about doing as a commission? Those include things like hosting and participating in community conversations and unity events, bringing visibility to community organizations. In fact, you just mentioned that. Elevating community events and promotion and participation, creating visibility to observances, community events and celebrations, and being a point of contact and sounding board for opportunities and recommendations to the council. So those are very tactile deliverables that come up under our commission commitments.
Awesome.
And then lastly, our recommendation for the town council. And I would note that these are pretty high level, with the intent that there's a lot of flexibility, provide guide rails for the council to make decisions about different ways that they would also execute and take action on that, and also give us room to make recommendations for them to take action as well. So the recommendations for the town council are to acknowledge and respond to divisive incidents in our community, proactively develop policies that allow for visual expression of inclusion, request all commissions identify and adopt commitments that foster equity in our municipal processes, decisions, and as an outcome, apply an equity perspective to all decision-making, including the municipal budget, implement proactive recruiting initiatives to increase the diversity of the town commissions. And these in no way infer that those things are not happening today. They're just, again, some high-level commitments to provide guardrails, so we're acting on our unity statement.
Awesome, thank you. I mean, I know that's the bulk of the work that's been done lately has all been on this, really, on this committee. So open the conversation now to the other commissioners for questions for Megan or the rest of the folks that are on that committee.
You want to have a discussion later? What's in the?
Yeah, but we can ask now, yeah, because we will vote on it later, but I just wanted to give an opportunity to ask her questions or anything. Does anyone have thoughts or questions that they want to bring up? Commissioner Tuttle?
And you were kind of doing it along the way, but it was helpful here. So just help me understand, hopefully folks who might be watching.
Yeah.
The unity statement is something the town would be publishing publicly
That's the idea, right?
as a representative statement from the town.
That's the idea, yes.
And it is a unity and equity statement, a unity statement, or a equity statement? Sorry, there were three. Because I heard you say equity statement.
Yeah,
I
I'm
see
gonna go,
unity
yeah,
statement,
I'm
and now
gonna go with,
Yeah.
it says unity statement. Sometimes, yeah, that's what we settled on. That's what the committee settled on, was unity statement. Yes, that's what it is,
So it's
a
a
unity
unity
statement.
statement,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, correct.
And then the commission's commitments, in what, talk me through, what, is this going to be an amendment to our bylaws? Is this going to be published alongside, just help me understand the commission's commitments and how
Yeah,
that's
I
going to
think the
I would
idea.
assume it would be like published on our website, maybe?
Yeah, I think the idea is it's thing that we are adopting as, again, this is kind of our mission, our vision, our commitments. Our commitments as a commission are these. We adopt them and accept them, and then we can be public facing with those, right? And said, hey, public, here's our commitments as a commission. As Beck said, we can post them on our website. We can have them as a deliverable, as a printed deliverable at events. So, we haven't talked this level of detail, but I see it as a flyer, piece of a flyer that we hand out when we're at a public event saying, here's who we are, here's our commitments. It helps to spread that message. So I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but the folks that were in the meetings, I think that's the idea of it, whereas the unity statement in the short version is something that you can kind of rattle off and say, this is what we are as a town, right? That's the town, this is what we are as a town regarding unity. These are specifically for our commission, what we're committed to.
Okay. So
that
when
make
you
sense?
say we're going to vote on these two, we're voting on one, what we're going to present to the town council in the form of a unity statement.
As well as the recommendations, we'll also recommend for these recommendations as well. So there'll be three things we're gonna forward to town council. One is the unity statement
Okay.
that they adopt. One is our commitments, because we wanna let them know that these are our commitments, we're gonna tell them that.
That's more of an FYI for
It's
them?
a more of an FY
They're
thing,
not-
because they don't have to adopt those, those are for us to
Correct,
adopt.
okay.
So we'll vote on those tonight, that we're gonna adopt those,
Okay.
and that we also forward those to town council. And then we will forward the recommendations to the town council.
And we're voting on the recommendations to town
Correct.
council tonight?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. Those three things we have to kind of separately or all together, however we want to package it, vote on, yeah. Does that make sense? Clear as mud.
Well, it does, except when you say we're going to vote on the commitments.
Yeah, that we
that's
adopt
sort of-
those. Yeah.
In what capacity, though? I mean, we could put
unofficially adopt them.
content.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
not as part of our, bylaws. I mean, the bylaws are more like the happenings and the workings of the
Yeah,
commission.
yeah.
So I think more as, we
Just
adopt them.
additional
that we're gonna-
content.
Yeah,
A
these are-
mechanism
our-
to demonstrate what will take, how we take
focus.
action in response to the unity statement. So what does that look like in action? It looks like enabling, empowering, and including all.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other thing, we're also, as you look at the recommendations of town council, one of the recommendations, the third bullet, is request that all commissions do a similar thing, right? So these are ideas, these are recommendations, like, how does this unity statement play out on a different commission, right? And we all know different commissions in town, but fill in the blanks, right? I won't name them, but fill in the blanks on different commissions in town to kind of live up to this unity statement might look different for a different commission that has different roles within town government than our commission on inclusion does. So our recommendation to town council is to say, hey, ask your committees and commissions, et cetera, some of them have different labels, to do a similar thing and look at this through their unity lens and what their commitments might be. Right? Okay, anyway. Makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. If it doesn't, ask more, clarify. That's it, yeah. So, I think we would vote on different things, right?
Yes.
We can vote on it in whatever way someone wants to make a motion and raise it to make it understandable.
Like to make a motion?
All right, well, any other questions? Because we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that in a minute.
Well, yeah, if we're
Yeah.
jumping to voting
We're
on.
not.
No,
We
we're
weren't.
not.
We weren't. That's why I was just gonna stop him for a second.
yet?
Yeah, point of
Okay.
order. We're just gonna, we're, honestly, right now, we're still on the subcommittee report. So we're just going through the subcommittee report and kind of discussing the work of the committee, So, but thank you, Prem, for that, and thank you, Kevin. Yeah, we'll get to, down below, voting on whatever we decide to vote on, whatever motions are made. So any other questions or comments for the committee and for Megan about these things?
Yeah,
clarify.
and apologies, because I just haven't been able to attend the subcommittee meetings
Yeah.
that focused on this.
No, we appreciate your input, though, because I know you sent some input to us.
Well, and then I'm following up maybe on one of them. So the second paragraph of the unity statement, where we're talking about, we commit to progress over time as we acknowledge our past. Provide some color around what past the town of Rocky Hill is acknowledging in that piece of the unity statement.
Yeah, I think, in my view, well, I'll let Megan, go ahead, Megan speak. If you want.
Sure, I think it's a historic past, so that includes things from the historic land that we're on, right? So there's Native American people that were on this land, the colonialism that came in, the years that, there's been racism, discrimination, likely, other things. So not a specific town incident, but overall, historically, what that means for the people. So it's a broader view of a historic look back and acknowledging we can do better.
Yeah, and I think it's also acknowledging there's been a lot of positives as well, right? So
That's
there's been a lot of things in our past, right? It's kind of funny because always when I think of Rocky Hill and the past Rocky Hill, I think we're a farming community, right? Because we have that on signs all around town. But we have different aspects of our past, so we're just acknowledging that all of these things have brought us to here, right? We've had a tremendous amount of in-migration into our town in recent years, right? That's changed the landscape of Rocky Hill. I think there's a lot of things that have happened since the founding of Rocky Hill in 1843 or whatever the year was that we started to today. So I think it's acknowledging all of that. And yeah, you can read into that different things, right? But that's our
Well,
thoughts.
Yeah, maybe
our thoughts.
that's where I'm headed. So
Right.
am I the only one that's reading this as implying, and I think maybe the content you added kind of confirmed that. So
Some of it is.
We're implying a
Some of it
negative.
Some of it is.
Well, yes, but that's a very common
Some of it
statement
is.
in unity statements. If you read any unity statement for a company or a town, they say something about acknowledging their past or acknowledging the land they're on. Because it is the truth, specifically in the U.S. in general. It's the truth when it comes to land, when it comes to the past. It might be considered land that wasn't originally yours. And just in general, it's if you read any unity statement. I went to a dance company where they read this type of unity statement and they said the same thing. It's just a very common phrase that's used to cover a wide variety of history.
That's right. And I would add that the Sustainable Rocky Hill will hear from them, but we had a member of the community speak at our May 6th, I think was the date.
Yes.
Who's acknowledged that in particular was important for certification for the Sustainable Rocky Hill with the Sustainable Connecticut certification in our Unity statement. So if they're able to use our Unity statement to have applied to their certification, that was an important point to include. He actually called that out.
You lost me a little there. So
Sure.
Sustainable
There's a Sustainable
CT, a separate
CT.
organization.
As a separate organization. We have a Sustainable Rocky Hill advisory committee to the
okay.
town. So they weren't in session, but we had someone who had previously represented that committee, came in and gave us a public comment. And one of the statements that he made was that he, in particular, liked that statement because it helps to acknowledge what's required from a sustainable CT perspective for their certification.
Having said that, we had that in there prior
We had
to
it in
him.
there prior.
We didn't add it because he might not.
But if I'm understanding your point, you're saying Sustainable Rocky Hill is saying the inclusion of the words "we acknowledge our past" somehow puts them in a position to achieve some sort of
It supports
certificate or
their
something?
there's a certificate, I can't speak for them. The committee wasn't there, and we did do additional research to better understand what that looks like, and felt that made the decision that that committee needs to advise as a committee. So rather than us do independent research for what they require, I'm simply commenting on what the community member said
Yeah, the feedback.
and trying to convey that simply.
No, understood. Okay, so my reaction to that, and if I'm the only one that sort of perceived acknowledging our past in a negative connotation, then that's on me.
No, yeah, I don't, I mean, I think a lot of people would.
Right.
I don't
Would-
think
would
it's a
see that.
negative
No,
thing
I,
to see it
yeah.
that way.
Again, yeah, everyone,
What
There's
do we-
nothing
if-
wrong with it's just there's nothing wrong with looking at the negative past and acknowledging that it was
no, he's not,
negative.
yeah, he's not saying that. I think he's
Yeah.
just saying that's what he's hearing when he hears those words,
I
is the
understand.
negative
Right,
aspects of it. So,
and
and I
I-
think that's true for a lot of people in our community and around. I think that's true.
The intent is the full, like,
It-
just our past.
And my
That
point.
includes
yeah.
negative and positive.
Correct,
then how
and that's
can we
my
do
point,
better
is there's a
in the
lot of
future?
things to acknowledge in anyone's past, in Rocky Hills in particular, in this case, that's important to acknowledge as we move forward.
Sorry to interrupt, but I've heard generally and nationally, if we're putting this in front of the town council of Rocky Hill,
I think, yes.
my expectation is we're delivering a statement that's the town of Rocky Hill specific.
And this is.
Am I, okay.
And this
So
is.
we're acknowledging the town of Rocky Hill's past.
Correct. That's what we're saying in
And-
our unity statement. That's what we're suggesting is important piece to our
Okay.
unity statement, is that we commit to progress over time as we acknowledge our past. That is an important piece of this. Yes, that's why it was included. For Rocky Hill, for
And
our
the s-
community.
And the specific past of town of Rocky Hill that we're acknowledging is.
We can't speak to that. I mean, well, I mean, again, I'm not a historian. We can talk to the town historian to figure out all the past. There's a lot of past, right? There's much past in Rocky Hill. I mean, I don't think, I'm not, I can see that. I see her. But I'm not in a position to speak to all those levels of detail, you know?
No, for sure, I'm not asking you to go
Yeah,
through it, but
yeah.
if.
She went through a couple examples, you know what I mean? But Dana, do you have something to add?
I would suggest that past could even be, the word past could even be substituted with the word history. And if you were to use the word history in there, we do have not just a town historian, but we have, as I understand it, volumes of publications that are maintained by the town historian that discuss history, the history of Rocky Hill. I choose not to say negative or positive. It is history. And to the extent that anyone has questions about any town's history, certainly we're not going to have that discussion in the next half hour here, but maybe a future conversation with the town's historian, maybe even inviting them here to do a nice presentation would be in order. But history might even be a nice phrase to use. History, the word history has no connotation. History is based on facts.
It's funny, I was actually focusing on the acknowledge part, but I know what you mean. I think there's a way to say what I think you all are saying with less of a negative connotation. And again, if I'm the only one that's feeling that there's an implication of negativity in this, then maybe it's just my own reading, and I'm happy to-
I don't see,
the-
I don't
I'm
see it
trying
as
to
negative.
understand where any of those words are negative. So now I'm trying to grasp, to understand that. What part do you feel, again, that's negative? What specific word in there goes toward negativity?
So we commit to progress, which is implying moving forward and
Which
improve.
you always want to do,
improvement.
constant and never-ending improvement,
Correct, right. As we acknowledge our past,
okay?
I guess I'm viewing that as the counter to, we're moving progressively, and therefore we have to acknowledge the negative past, is kind of how I'm reading it.
So,
See that?
so I don't, yeah, I don't
Okay.
see that. The past, the history, I certainly think those words are interchangeable,
Same.
but you have to acknowledge the past to learn from it, to move forward into the future. I think that's what we're,
And I think you also acknowledge the progress that has been made, right? I mean, there's been progress made in our history.
and none of it means that it's all negative, so maybe that's where I'm confused with where you are.
Right.
Because we could be acknowledging excellent instances of our past. So I don't think we should lock into any negativity because there is none. I mean,
There's no adjective.
whatever the past was, anything and everything,
We're accepting it.
We're accepting the way
we're
it
in
is
acceptance of it.
and try to learn
Yeah.
and get the positiveness of that.
Some of it
And move on.
positive, some of it negative, some of it we may not understand, but we're just acknowledging the history or the past.
Even on these days, I'm sorry to interrupt, but even on these days, we do positive things and negative things.
Still today.
The younger generation gonna judge us what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Am I right or am I wrong?
So if there's a thought that everything we do is positive, perhaps that's where we're conflicted, because there is no such a thing.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Thank you, Commissioner Turtle. I appreciate this conversation. No,
Yeah, we got some varying reactions to my question, so I'm glad the commission's
No, I think
talking.
it's a valuable conversation. That's just why we're here.
Yeah.
Just have that
Well,
conversation.
I
Appreciate that.
certainly wanted to have many of these conversations at the subcommittee.
I know, right.
I actually think we're losing focus.
Yeah,
because this wasn't the time to do
Yeah.
this.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're right.
yeah.
The subcommittees were open
It's
to,
our fault because we missed the sub-meeting.
to every commissioner.
To hash out this stuff.
And we also allowed for any flexibility that may have been needed. And we didn't get the participation that we could have
You're right.
to have this discussion at some of those meetings. Perhaps we should take a step back and have another meeting or two before we move forward.
Well,
So
we're
I-
asking for a vote today, right?
Well, that's on the table, so we'll see how this progresses.
And that's
So-
why I'm making a motion now
yeah,
to, okay, maybe we should take a step back.
Why don't we can make that a motion
Yeah.
during the new business? Why don't we get over to there? We still have to go through data gathering analysis.
Again, any other questions or comments on this stuff for us, for Megan or for others on this?
No.
Kevin, you're flipping the page, so I'm assuming you have more. That's fine.
Well, no, I mean, it sounds like the subcommittee meeting is mandatory to provide input is what
No,
I'm hearing.
not at all,
I
not at all.
didn't-
Kevin, we reached out via email, via other means to get input.
That's right.
Right, so it was not the only time, just to be clear.
And it was
not the only
provided,
time.
correct?
Yeah, and it was provided, and it was all put together into this package. And this is what we ended up with, and where we landed
Got it.
after all that input. So.
Got it.
Yes, and we can discuss it. We can discuss it, and if a motion gets made to forward one version of any of these, the process is a motion, a second, discussion, voting, you know what I mean? And that's the process. So, yeah. So any other specific questions before we move on to the other stuff? I mean,
No, we can move to the other stuff.
okay.
I don't want to.
It's a good point that
Okay.
was brought up by Kevin. It's, if you're really taking a lens and looking at it and reading it in a way, then it kind of states that you're talking about the progress, but you're acknowledging something. Right? It means there may have been that something that we're acknowledging on that. But
No,
grammatically,
I'm glad to hear that
Yeah.
that others don't perceive it negatively, that's a positive.
It is definitely the first time, and until I heard from you, it didn't make any difference for me to say, oh, when I read it again, then it feels like, okay, you're talking about the progress and then you're acknowledging something. So it is kind of saying what Kevin says. But otherwise, if you just read it through without a lens in the hand, it feels very good.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing nothing. Do you have anything else, Megan, to add on the, not just on this, on anything else on the, I know this has been all our work lately, but any other thoughts before I move on to the next committee?
Just one last note is
Yep.
that in the packet that each of the commissioners has, it's the proposed slides for the town council and
Yeah.
highlights the 3 slides that we would bring forward.
That we would bring to them.
Correct.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
It's the very end to differentiate what you have in your packet.
Right, from the other stuff, right. Thank you. Which is the unity statement itself, the commission's commitments, and recommendation for town council.
Correct.
Those
thank
3
you.
slides.
Yes,
Just because everyone's not looking at that.
that's right.
All right, cool. Next on the agenda, we have Data Gathering and Analysis Subcommittee. Commissioner Tuttle.
Nothing to report from the Data Gathering and Analysis Subcommittee.
Okay, thank you. And next, we have the Unity event, which I can report on that we don't have anything to report on that because the,
It's still Saturday, September 7th at 9:30 a.m. in Elm Ridge.
yep, is that the date?
I have the flyer up. That's
Yeah, let me just make sure that date. Yes, September 7th.
Yeah, we haven't changed.
Yeah. So that event, I think the heavy work has been on this statement, as you can all see, recently. So once we get this kind of put forward towards the town council, then I think we will be moving forward in June and July. Very tricky in June and July, busy times, but to do some more detailed planning for that event. But yes, thank you, Beck. It'll be on September 7th, Saturday morning, Elm Ridge Park. It's kind of the idea is a larger version of our Walk a Mile in My Shoes event that we've had for the last couple of years, and kind of blowing out a little bit. I'll say blowing it out. Maybe that's the wrong word. Growing it a little bit.
Growing it, yes, yeah.
Yeah, not exponential growth here, just like, linear growth.
Come on,
Progress,
not
progress.
exponential growth?
Progress. So anyway, yeah, so not much else to report on that. All right, next up on the agenda, old business, Commission banner.
Yes,
Commissioner Kittle.
the commission banner is in the works, and we should have it in our hands very shortly.
Really?
We've been working, and I say we because, again, it's a team effort, but we've been working with HR, and the order has been placed, and the monetary funding needed is in place. So, yeah, we'll have it soon.
Excellent. And then, did we end up with a table cover as well?
Yeah,
Both,
well,
right?
it's the banner and
The
table
banner and then
cover.
the table cover, like the
Meaning-
3-sided table cover that,
Yes.
yeah.
The
Awesome.
order,
Yeah,
if you will,
included both. right.
encompasses both.
So at an event, we'll have, I think it's a 6-foot table cover, I believe.
Great.
6-foot
For
table
farmers
cover
market.
that's there, yeah, for things like that, for the Fall Fest and stuff. We'll have our banner to hang up at our Walk a Mile Shoes event and stuff like
And
that.
our partners at HR didn't let the ball drop on it, so they have
Right.
our back for sure.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Kittle. Any questions on that?
Nope.
We must have an in HR.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, well, now we are actually on to new business, and the first thing is to discussion on recommendations of town council to adopt an equity statement and commitments. So, I will look for a commissioner to make a motion, and we can do this in a number of ways. We can either make a motion to just accept the 3 pieces of this, or one piece at a time, whatever someone thinks is up there. And I'm sure discussion
okay.
will too.
I'll make a motion to approve the unity statement. Start one piece at a time.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, motion. Do you get that, Autumn? I know she's like writing notes down. All right, so now for discussion. So on the unity statement specifically, do we have any discussion, comments? It's all in front of you. It's been read.
If I could start really quickly.
Sure.
Past is a complicated thing, and there's negative and positive things in the past. I do not see it as a negative thing to acknowledge the negative part of your past. Specifically, let's just talk about the U.S. as a whole for a second, because we're a part of that. The U.S. has a complicated past. It's not all good. But the only way to move on from that is to accept that it wasn't all good, accept that there was some wrongdoing done, and keep going. It's not a negative thing to accept that there is negativity. Change is happening all the time. You see it in old movies. They'll put a little warning saying, this was fine at the time, but now it's not. And us acknowledging little things like that makes us a more progressive town now. So I think it's okay to interpret it as negative, because the point still is that we're acknowledging that we're improving as a town and as a people.
Thank you, Commissioner Markowitz. Anyone else? Kittle, Prem? Anyone else?
I kind of like what was said just now, right? It is the past. We don't know the past. History, not everything is recorded. The past is past. If something happened, sure, acknowledge to it, right? And it goes back to what Will was, Mr. Kittle was talking about, to say, well, it could be the positive or a negative, even if it's negative on the part of what Ken said, and it is something that has to be acknowledged. So, can we confirm to a fact that, okay, there was nothing that happened?
Thank you.
So the part I'm conflicted with now, my eyes have been opened, is one of our body has concern with it. So that should concern all of us. So I just want to maybe slow down, push back from the desk, if you will, and try to understand where in that sentence the negativity is coming from. And perhaps we can rephrase it, because I think it is imperative that we are all in unity on this. So,
Thank you, Commissioner Kittle. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think what I'm highlighting or have highlighted is a potential read that the town council will have of the statement, that this commission is recommending they post publicly as a representation of the town. And so if I read it negatively, I think Megan and Beck sort of agreed that, yeah, we are acknowledging negativity. So it's not, I don't think my
No, I always
interpretation
disagree
was,
with you.
way out in left field.
Not at all.
And so if that was my interpretation, I think the town council might have a similar reaction to it. So my question maybe to this group is this second paragraph integral to the unity statement? Which again, if we're focusing on unity, I think the first paragraph does an excellent job of staying positive. It's acknowledging we like unity and fairness over divisive injustice. And I think that was some of my comments, right? I was like, some of this content within here I feel like is skewing negative and more punitive, and I'd rather a unity statement be very focused on bringing people together, the positivity of the concept of unity. And I just feel like we do an excellent job in that first paragraph, and then the second paragraph, I feel like just misses for me, because it seems like it's pulling in all the ails of this country's past and is then presenting it as Rocky Hills to adopt. And I'm not comfortable telling the town of Rocky Hills Town Council to accept all the wrongdoings of this country's past, kind of thing.
I understand that,
Commissioner Markowitz.
and I think we agree the negative thing. I just don't think acknowledging that something's negative is a bad thing. If we're talking about divisiveness, which we define as discrimination, discrimination's a negative thing. You can't talk about discrimination without having to acknowledge the negative part about it. And I know we don't say the exact word, but that's like, if we're talking about, let's just say past as a term, and we're just talking about Rocky Hill, we had discriminatory things happen in the past couple of years. We're acknowledging that in the statement. We're acknowledging the past issues, and we move on. We can't be totally, at least in my opinion, this is all an opinion, but I feel like we can't be totally clear without acknowledging everything. No statement can be totally positive when we're talking about things like discrimination, because it's not a positive topic. It's a rough topic to handle. It's an upsetting topic.
Thank you, Commissioner Markowitz. And I'll say this, if there's, is there, to Commissioner Kittle's point, is there edits to that language? Again, we were shooting to have this edited before tonight, but that's fine, that's part of this process, Is there edits to this sentence, because I don't think the whole thing, address our present and position Rocky Hill to create a future with an equitable quality of life for all is a pretty positive piece, that whole last phrase. And we commit to progress over time. So it seems like is there a piece of this that we can edit or change
It's
that
funny,
would
I
make
did-
sense to you?
Yeah,
that
no,
would
I
make
did have
sense to you,
I did
you
have
know?
a revision, but
Right,
I've blanked on what exactly it was, but.
Yeah, I mean, and I appreciate the idea of the word history. I mean, again, to me, they're interchangeable, but I do appreciate, Prem, that there's a difference there, right? I mean, history is kind of written history and stuff, and past is kind of like everything that's happened, so, you know.
Let me, I don't think this is devil's advocate, but if I say as we embrace our history, is everybody equally comfortable with that?
Well, again, I think, I'm sorry,
Saying it's positive and negative, I mean,
when the chair calls on me, I'll jump in.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kittle.
Okay,
Commissioner Kittle,
so-
thank you.
Again, I don't think this is the
proper forum.
proper forum to start revising it. Perhaps we should just push back in the interest of time and then revisit it in the future. Because there's a lot of conflict here.
Yeah. That's fine.
I still don't see any negative connotation from it, so I want to push back and circle back to it maybe 3 or 4 times.
That's fair. I mean, I just asked this. We've met
5 times.
5 times over the last couple months, and
It's in the first part. of
yeah.
it's in-
So anyway, I just say this. The goal is and was, and I don't want to rush it, so I
Yes.
appreciate it, Commissioner Kittle. I don't want to rush it, but the goal is and was, I should say, to get this done now before summer, so we can forward it to town council. They can vote on it. We can have it kind of ready sometime this summer, right? And have them looking at it, so that we have it ready, because it's been 2+ years that we've been here, and we've kind of been working on this. So that's was my goal, our goal, I think. If it doesn't happen, we can always call a special meeting to vote on this at some point, which is what we'd have to do. Our next meeting is not until August, just because we front-loaded our meetings this year, if you remember correctly. We had meetings in January, February, March, and May, and just kind of front-loaded them just because we had a lot of work to do with our new commissioners on board. And then we don't have any in the summer months of June and July. Sure. So that's all. I'm just caution that. So if we want to do that and call a special meeting to do it, or we wait till August and approve it, and nothing will happen on this particular item over the summer, and it is what it is. So
Well, this is sort of like the subcommittee meeting I envisioned, but this isn't it.
right. Well, again, yeah, not everyone's on the subcommittee. I mean, and the point is, to just be clear, Commissioner Kittle, the subcommittee is a subcommittee of commissioners, and those people on that subcommittee were there for the most part, and some didn't make it. Not everyone on the full commission is on the committees.
And
so
again,
it's
this
the goal.
isn't-
It's the committee's job to do the work, bring it to the full commission, which we're here
Got it.
to discuss. So it's working as it's supposed to work, right? Honestly, it is. And so, the fact that somebody not on the committee couldn't make it to committee meeting is okay. I mean, it'd be nice if we all showed up, but we can't, right? That's our lives. And so the process is working as it's supposed to, and we bring it here and we have the conversation here as a full commission on any issue. This is kind of how the process is supposed to work. So,
Okay, with that explanation, then I guess,
but we can still table it to discuss more, I guess, if we wanted to. Or honestly, you can suggest edits that or make everyone comfortable and we agree with it, and then we can vote on that. You know what I mean? If there's an edit that would make, again, Kevin, I look at you just because you're bringing this, these issues up, that makes you comfortable, that everyone's kind of comfortable with, so.
Can I jump in real quick?
Sure, Commissioner.
So, thank you, because I appreciate the positive friction, and I know it's not comfortable, right? That's what good diversity of thought does in this kind of environment. So it's welcome. And I would say the intent of it is, there's a quote that I really like from Maya Angelou, and it's, do your best until you know better, then when you know better, you do better. So the intent of the acknowledging our past, addressing our present, and positioning Rocky Hill is in that quote.
Thank you. And I'll also just say, one of our commitments is to be willing to have difficult conversations.
That's right.
And we need to model for our community and for one another that we can have these conversations. So I think this is really valuable and really helpful. Honestly, I do. Even with the chuckle, I like the chuckle as well, but I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and
I do.
I really don't want this to be a difficult conversation.
No,
I
it's-
want
it's-
it to be a
it's
free
all
No,
good.
it's good.
No,
That's part of
discussion.
the thing,
Yeah,
though. That's how
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
supposed
it's all
to
good.
be. Diversity
That's
is
right.
difficult.
And I also, I'll acknowledge it doesn't have to be a unanimous vote, right? And so if everybody is ready to vote and agrees with it now,
Yeah.
by all means, don't feel like I have to, I'm not trying to kibosh
Yeah, no, I understand that.
the movement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I voiced,
Yeah.
I voiced these in
I guess,
writing previously, and
yeah,
now was the
yeah,
opportunity to have
yeah.
it a live discussion, so that's what I thought we would.
And again,
Undertake tonight.
as the process works, there's a motion, there's a second, we're having discussion. If someone wants to make an amendment to that motion, they can, right? If there was language in this particular case, if there's language you wanted to edit and make an amendment to the motion, then we could do that. We would vote on that amendment, right? The amended thing, that would pass or fail, and then we would then go back to the original motion if that one fails, if that makes sense. So I just want to leave that on the table just for the process. And if that doesn't work, and we can say, we can vote no to, because the motion's already on the table. So I'm just going through the logistics. If we decide not to make an amendment, and then we vote on this, and we vote no, it's not that we're throwing the whole thing in the garbage forever. It's that we're just maybe voting to take it back to the committee level and back to the table for discussion and conversation. So I think, did I clear that up, or did I mucky it up?
I think I understand.
Okay.
There's lots of options.
Okay, yeah. Right now, there's a motion on the table to accept this as read. So either vote on it. No, we have to vote on it, or someone makes an amendment. And I'll leave it open for discussion for another 30 seconds.
Did I can't remember, did I offer an alternative to it, or no?
Not to that one.
Not to that one.
I don't think so, Kevin. I don't-
Not like an
Just wanna
official
check.
motion.
No, he's asking.
No, my feedback that I provided, I
email
can't
feedback.
recall if I offered
Provided email.
alternative
I-
language.
I take that, but you may have given us different language.
But like I said, it doesn't have to be unanimous. If everyone is comfortable with
And-
how it reads,
And with your
then-
feedback, though, I received that directly. We did discuss it at the committee meetings.
Correct.
So this wasn't a Megan decision.
no, understood.
committee, right.
Understood.
Well, again, to the point I made earlier, this is the process, right? The process is we give input, the committee meets, we forward it, they bring their recommendations. Any committee, right, brings their recommendation to the full commission. We vote on it, we discuss, we vote, we move forward. So we good? All right, hearing nothing, I'll call for a vote then. So the motion is to accept and bring to town council this unity statement as written. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions?
Abstain.
All right, so the motion passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 1, with one abstention. Do we get that? All right. So I will also accept a motion to adopt our commission's commitments that are on the next slide.
Motion to adopt our commission's commitments.
Do I have a second?
Second?
And any discussion on these?
Probably another one that I raised, so if there was feedback on it, just if you don't mind. The line where we recognize there's always more to learn and the work is never done. Can we say that? Is there any way to say that less pessimistically? Like, my hope is we will reach a point where we're not.
We're in utopia.
Discriminating, right?
We're in utopia.
Well, if our commitment's to.
Glad you believe so.
To reach utopia.
I'm super happy that you believe that's the case, but I think others might feel differently. I do believe
We're
that the work will never be
perpetually-
done. I
we're
do the
stuck
work.
in perpetual.
I do believe the work
In
will
our
never be done.
lifetime, I believe the
discrimination.
work will never be done.
But yeah, I appreciate that sentiment. That's my response. Megan, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
I think that was the discussion was, yeah,
We'll never reach
Utopia.
a place where
Utopia.
we're
satisfied.
we're satisfied with
Yeah.
the
I think
the playing field.
part of the unity statement is to reach beyond mediocrity, right? Really look at being proactive and continuous improvement over time. So we can't say today what we'll learn today that will inform tomorrow. I think that was kind of a weird philosophical statement, so.
Everything's always
But-
changing.
Things are changing, and to Beck's point earlier, that things that were socially acceptable even, 5 or 10 years ago and were in films and were very widely accepted are no longer the norm and no longer something we choose to accept.
Any other questions, comments on the commitments? No. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of adopting this commission's commitments as written? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Abstentions. So the passes, we have 6-0. All right. The last thing I will entertain a motion to is to bring the recommendations listed on the last slide, of which there are 5, and forward those recommendations to town council. Again, as is one of our roles, I'll just highlight this, as a commission, is to bring things to town council, bring recommendations, and then we did that a couple months ago, I think it was now, last month or so, whatever, I can't remember. As another recommendation, we'll do that. So if we pass a motion to do that, then we would forward these to town council for their consideration. So that's what I'm looking for, is a motion to bring these recommendations listed to the town council. Do I have a motion?
Motion to bring these recommendations for the town council?
Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Prem. Any discussion on these?
I would say that when we reviewed for public comment on May 6th, Mayor Murata was present and saw the materials and asked that we be very specific in our recommendations. So I think there is a thinking, potentially when we go to the council, that this will be too general and non-specific. And I wanted to make sure our full commission is aware of the comment.
Thank you. And again, yeah, I mean, again, these are recommendations to town council. They can do what they want. They can toss it back to us and say, do something different. You know what I mean? We don't like piece of this. They can just work on it themselves.
Yeah, we're just
I
supposed to
mean,
be advisors.
they can do what they want with it. But at the same time, we want to be comfortable with what we're presenting to them. And I think it's not an exhaustive list. I think the committee was, as we worked on this piece of it, it was here's a handful of recommendations. It's not like the all-inclusive recommendations around unity that we could make.
Right, are these,
Prem.
I mean, the question is, I mean, these are generic recommendations.
They
If we need to go specific, right, we always have that opportunity to provide those recommendations.
To go more specific.
Yes,
I see.
every so often, every 6
Maybe
months
do
or
it
later.
2 months or whatever.
Right. Yeah, fair enough.
And
You know,
just
Megan?
to add to that, so we intentionally left them general because the intent isn't to, as I mentioned when I read them through, the intent isn't to make assumptions that these things are not already happening and to make very specific recommendations. I think our commission would need to do a little more research, have better assessment, work more closely with the town to understand where the gaps and opportunities are and where we can make informed recommendations for the town to do something very specific.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. As a volunteer board of commissioners that don't know all the details of the inner happenings of the town, it's hard to get too specific, with certain things.
And if
We
we
got
were
specific with our work. You know what I
Correct.
mean? We were able to get specific with our work because we know our own work. So yeah, I
However,
think that's
if
a
we
good
were
point.
made aware of some potential opportunities and
Sure.
we do
Makes sense.
research for solutions, those are things that we can bring forward as very specific recommendations
Makes
to
sense.
the council.
Makes sense. Any other thoughts or comments? I'll just go down the list. Commissioner Kittle, any thoughts, comments?
No.
Commissioner Nagbani? Markowitz? Commissioner Tuttle?
I don't mean to put her on the spot, but can we leverage a town leader here and ask? Her qualifier I thought was important, which was, these aren't to imply that these things aren't happening today within the town.
Right.
And so I hope that's a part of sort of that presentation to the town when you read these recommendations, do you read them as implying you're not doing this work today, town of Rocky Hill, you need to begin doing them, or not? So this is more of a commentary opinion request from someone who, is currently responsible and tasked with this type of approach to hiring, et cetera.
I'll make a generic statement that I like the suggestion that as these are presented going forward, you do say that, you recognize that in some instances, these things are already occurring. And that might be a nice opener when you, I'm assuming the chair, would present these to town council.
Fair enough, that's a good recommendation, I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's funny, I didn't think of that, honestly, Commissioner Tuttle. I was like, yeah, of course some of these things are happening now. They're doing, developing policies. I mean, some of these things are happening and have been happening for years.
Yeah, I think the feedback I may have given was,
Yeah.
as simple as continue to implement,
right,
or,
right.
continue to apply. an
If they're
equity
doing it
perspective.
now, continue it. If you're not, start it, sort of thing, right?
Yeah,
Right.
I think it'll be better.
I think that's a good point, acknowledging
Town
that.
council.
We will acknowledge the past of the town of Rocky Hill and the town council's work.
Embrace the
And
past.
We'll embrace the past of their work on these areas. Is it too soon?
No, I think it's right on time.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I'm just making sure that we're okay. All right, so we have a motion on the table that's been seconded to forward these all with the caveat, I guess, that we let them know that we acknowledge that some of these are already happening. Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, well, thank you. That was a involved and wonderful conversation. Next up on the agenda is public comment. This portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comment from the public who are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Any person interested in providing public comment but cannot attend the meeting should email their written comments to commissioninclusioninnovation@rockyhillct.gov. We have no public here, but I still need to read that statement because people can send in their comments, and we do get them on our commission email. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.